Alright, welcome back to an episode of the 3-Count NXT edition. I'm War Machine MJ. You see my titles. And, yeah, let's go ahead and... I'm here today to talk about NXT from... Well, NXT 2.0 from April 19th. And I'm also here to talk about NXT UK from April the 21st. So, let's go ahead and get crack-a-lackin', shall we? We kick off the show with Pretty Deadly coming to the ring talking about their championship victory last week over in the gauntlet match. And meanwhile, as they're making their way to the ring, Braun Breaker is on his way into the building. But before they can really, get into, their plans going forward, they're interrupted by the grizzled young vets. Yeah, GYV is absolutely disgusted with Pretty Deadly, their lack of decorum, if you will. And then Zach Gibson implies that the only reason why Pretty Deadly were so successful in UK was because the grizzled young vets left the building. Well, left the promotion. And before they could really get into, they also said that the only reason why Pretty Deadly won the titles was because the grizzled young vets weren't in the gauntlet match. And before they could even, continue on that tangent, they were interrupted by Legado del Fantasma, who, jumped them. And while, GYV and LDF were going at it, Elektra Lopez says that, LDF wants their shot at the tag titles too. And as they're brawling to the back, Braun Breaker hops the barricade and, and he calls out Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy appears over the Titantron and all the other screens around the arena and on the PA, and he basically starts up a cat and mouse game with Braun Breaker, yeah! And so a good chunk of the episode was Braun Breaker going around backstage looking for Joe Gacy. Next we had a promo from Santos Escobar from, outside the Performance Center, where he basically opened fires on Carmelo Hayes, telling him that his place in the North American title scene is at the very back of the line. Then Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams have a promo of their own. Where basically he is not putting up with the disrespect from Santos Escobar. So, yeah, that leads to a match later on. Next, we had Saray versus Tiffany Stratton. Now, I like Saray. I don't like the character, but I like her. That dropkick is something else. I don't like Tiffany Stratton. I don't like the character. I'm not sold on the woman behind the character. Also, I don't like the daddy's girl character. I really hate that. I mean, NXT UK is doing the daddy's girl gimmick with Zaya Brookside, which, I like it. But just whatever this character is with Tiffany Stratton, I don't dig it, man. Yeah, the finish came when Saray was looking to German suplex Stratton out of the corner. Stratton hung on, hit a purposeful headbutt against Saray, meeting of the minds, if you will. And while Saray was down on the canvas, Tiffany Stratton hit a corkscrew Vader bomb for the victory. Next, we had Braun Breaker, looking for Joe Gacy Part 1, where he bumps into the Grizzled Young Vets, and before the Grizzled Young Vets could be any help to him, he starts hearing Rick Steiner's voice, which it's just, it's just footage from where Rick Steiner got captured, and it leads to Braun, rediscovering said cage from that, that segment. He gets mad and slams the iPad down. So, come back from the commercial, and Pretty Deadly are backstage, and they run into Persia Pirotta and Indy Hartwell. And this whole thing is Indy and Persia jockeying for a title match for Dexter and Duke, while Pretty Deadly thinks that Indy and Persia are hitting on him. So, yeah, that leads to the main event for later. Next, there was a promo from Grayson Waller, and he was talking about how, well, the bomb kind of got dropped from the interviewer. That Grayson Waller fired Sangha after both he and Waller came up short in the gauntlet match last week. And Grayson Waller said, oh, I fired him because I kept this whole busted arm act up, and, it didn't pay any dividends. Then, he's interrupted by Chase U. And, Andre Chase is ready to, shout his catchphrase of, this is a teachable moment, when Grayson Waller, berates Andre Chase and Bodie Hayward, when he's interrupted by Sangha, who's extremely pissed, and it's kind of a monster movie or a horror movie chase, as Waller's doing everything he can, running over stuff, throwing everything he can at Sangha, and Sanga's just, barreling towards him. They end up inside the ring, and Grayson Waller pops Sangha one good time, and for whatever reason, a referee slides in, and Grayson Waller's yelling at him, start the match. He turns around, and Sanga's just beeling him all over the ring. Backs him up into a corner, just keeps chucking him all around. And then Waller then drop kicks Sangha down to a knee, and he's just laying in the shots, bounces up against the ropes. Sangha pops up and just shoulder checks him. Yeah, this was a short and sweet, short and simple match. Grayson Waller gets a lucky shot, staggers Sangha, and he hits his rolling thunder ace crusher, where he just dives in through the ropes, pops up, and catches him, and he puts Sangha away for the victory. Which this isn't going to be over between them, not by a long shot. Next, we had a promo from Cora Jade, basically, recapping last week where she got ambushed by one of her heroes, and basically went on this tangent about how she was heartbroken when someone she looked up to, betrayed her like that. And then she holds up a picture of her and Natalya back when Cora Jade was, I think she said 10 years old. She rips it up, and then the half that's got Natalya's face on it, she steps on it and walks away. Next we get, before we go to commercial, LDF makes their way to the ring. That's important later on. You can just deal with it. Just hold on. Next we had a a video package for Roxanne Perez, aka former Ring of Honor Women's Champion Roxy. And her whole thing was the whole video package was, I used to play the WWE games, and I never thought, like, you know, I thought the only way I would be able to step in the ring was through these games, but now video games have become real life, and here I am. Which my my thing with this promo was, for, you know, I'll go ahead and nip this one out of the way because, you know, I am a gamer. How the hell is she playing how's she playing WWE 2012 on a PS4 when it came out on PS3 and Xbox 360? That out of the way. Why was she sitting so damn close to the TV? Like, those are wireless controllers. Why is she sitting like this close to the TV? That's bad for your eyes. You know, says the guy with contacts. Anyway, yeah, the video package ends with saying, you know, Roxanne Perez coming next week. She's interviewed backstage, and you know, she cuts a overwhelmed babyface promo where she's like, "Oh, this is still surreal." You know, it still hadn't set in when she's interrupted by Toxic Attraction, who roll up. Mandy Rose puts her some, gives her some advice, if you will. Tells her to not to get her not to get her hopes up too high, because, you know, she'll never achieve them. And she just goes, thanks. Of course, Toxic Attraction, or JC Jane and Gigi Dolan, I should say, think that Roxy's, you know, copping an attitude with him. Or, I'm sorry, Roxanne. Roxanne. Anyway, thinks she's copping an attitude, and then they're like, "Oh, how about we push up your debut to tonight?" And so, yeah, that match came in a little later. Then we had the grizzled young vets, James Drake and Zach Gibson, taking on LDF. And before, you know, GYV could get into the ring, LDF, who were, you know, what came out before the break, were chilling in the ring, and they just decided to plancha over and take out GYV. Now, this was a fun match. LDF were over like Rover with the crowd. But in the end, LDF get the victory over GYV after hitting a high-low combination on James Drake. After the match, Santos Escobar climbs directly into the ring, and he goes, "Yeah, let's keep the momentum rolling. So Carmelo, get your ass out here now." And, you know, before Carmelo comes out, or before we go to commercial, Santos says, "Oh, Tony D'Angelo, if you're watching, this is how a leader gets business done." We come back from commercial, and Wes Lee is being interviewed. Wes Lee, of course, former NXT Tag Team Champions and former one half of MSK. Of course, you know, the incident involving Nash Carter. So, yeah. Yeah, he cuts a whole "I'll bounce back," you know, kind of promo, saying things are being a bit chaotic, but, you know, he's in the middle of, you know, trying to bring the positivity in when Zion Quinn rolls up and says, "I really didn't catch what he said." And Wesley just kind of threw back at him. He's like, well, first off, you sound cool as hell saying it. Second, I don't know what you said, and nobody knows what you're talking about. Like, basically, I think Zion Quinn was trying to give him some advice, and Wesley just turns in, he's just being a dick to him. It's just like, is that Zion Quinn's new gimmick now? As people are a dick to him? Anyway, yeah, Wesley then challenges Zion Quinn to a match later on in the night, and during the commercial, Fallon Henley and Briggs and Jensen jump LDF and Elektra Lopez, removing them from ringside for Carmella versus Santos Escobar, which this was a bang up match. Like, they were going tit for tat, and when things were coming up, Escobar, he drives Carmelo to the outside, and then he hits a suicide dive, takes out Carmelo, and all the while, there are these two dudes in a suit. There are these two dudes in a suit, one in front of Santos and one, in his blind side. The dude in his blind side chops him down with a crowbar to the knee and then throws him in the ring, where Carmelo puts him out with a diving leg drop. And Carmelo Hayes lays down the challenge for, makes his claim for his rematch, makes a claim for the North American Championship at the next NXT special Spring Break-In, which, that sounds kind of dumb. Cameron Grimes comes in, and Cameron Grimes is still a little salty about Carmelo and Trick jumping him and Solo last week. So he tells him if he wanted a rematch, all he had to do was ask, and he accepts the challenge. And Cameron says he wants to fight right now, but then he tells Trick and Carmelo, he's just like, maybe you should look out behind you. And they turn around, and Solo Sikoa lays waste to both Trick and Carmelo, and then he steps up to Cameron Grimes and he says, I want next. And Cameron Grimes just kind of, alright, you got it. Next we had part 2 of Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker searching for Joe Gacy. He comes out of an elevator, and then he walks into a room full of mirrors. He sees Joe Gacy in one of them, and he turns around, Joe Gacy's not there, and then he smashes a mirror, giving himself 7 years bad luck. What an idiot. Next, we come back from commercial, and Malcolm Bivens is on the phone while Roderick Strong is in the background training. And from what I picked up, I probably misheard, but it sounded like Ivy Nile is going to be making her NXT UK debut pretty soon, which, love Ivy Nile. Love the gun show. Anyway, Roderick Strong then steps up to Malcolm Bivens and tells him, it's been rough, but he's the leader, and he refuses to watch, he refuses to watch another group crumble, of course, in reference to the fall of Undisputed Era. And he's going to make some examples. And that if you don't agree with his vision, you're an enemy of the Diamond Mine. Of course, he walks off, and Bivens looks kind of upset. Uh, Next, we had Natalya making her NXT 2.0 debut as she took on Tatum Paxley. Of course, Tatum Paxley is trying to earn her way in to said diamond mine. The first chunk of this match, Natalya is dominating Tatum Paxley. Paxley would get one or two moves in, but Natalya would dominate. Second chunk of this match, Paxley gets gets a short burst advantage over Natalya and is having trouble keeping it. And then the final chunk is Natalya beats her with the sharpshooter. Next, Tony D'Angelo is interviewed on his way out of the building. Asked if he had anything to do with what happened to Santos, and he plays it off. He's like, it must have been a bunch of Goombas trying to make a name for themselves. And then he asks the interviewer, he's just like, is that Legato's wheels? And then he walks off. That'd come and play later. Next, we had a hype reel for Nathan Frazier from NXT UK coming over to 2.0. Seriously, if you have not seen this cat's matches, you should definitely check it out because he is fantastic. Next, we had a backstage segment where, Duke Hudson and Dexter Lumis were trying to, be on the same page going into their NXT Tag Team Championship match against Pretty Deadly in the main event. And it's the whole Duke would try and pitch ideas, and Dexter Lumis would no sell it, and Indy would go, "Oh, he doesn't like that idea. He doesn't like that idea." And then Indy tells him, "It's like, listen, if you want to get on the same page with him, you've got to speak his language." And Duke's making a whole to do about saying, "How am I supposed to, speak his language when he doesn't speak at all?" So Indy walks away, and Duke Hudson, he sits down. He makes a bunch of faces, not saying anything. He's just making a bunch of faces. And Indy comes in. She's like, "What are you doing? You're not saying anything." And Duke, he's frustrated. He leaves. Next, we had Wesley taking on Zion Quinn. Yeah, this was a pretty good match. Wesley started off the match hot and heavy. Like, he came at Zion Quinn, stepping on the gas, the full throttle. But in the end, Zion Quinn takes him out with one forearm to the face, and while Wesley was on the ground, Zion Quinn hits him with a flying forearm for 3. Natalya gets interviewed about Cora Jade's statement earlier, and Natalya's like, "Oh, Cora Jade is playing the victim, where I'm the victim. I'm protecting my my spot," and blah 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 blah. Then Nikita Lyons rolls up and she cuts a promo on Charlotte, and that's all I'm going to say about Nikita Lyons. Anyway, for whatever reason, she's yelling at Natalya, even though they're like this close, this far away from each other. Like that's the thing that confused me about this promo. Like, if there's somebody like right here on the couch beside me, I'm not going to just yell at them. That's rude. It's also could damage their hearing. Anyway, yeah, she basically says, "After I'm done with Lash Legend next week, I'm coming after you, Natalya." And Natalya says, "All right, but you'll leave screaming when I lock in the sharpshooter." And then Nikita Lyons just says, "It's okay, I'm flexible," and everybody looked like they didn't know what they're supposed to say next. Because Natalya had that look like, what? And the interviewer is just kind of like, okay. So, yeah. Um, Next, we had a recap of Von Wagner and his discretions against Ikemen Jiro. Of course, last week, Von Wagner beat the hell out of Jiro, beat him in a match, and then yeeted him into the crowd. And and they said that Jiro's going to be out for a month while Von Wagner is suspended and fined. While we're on the subject of Ikemen Jiro, his former Jacket Time cohort, Kushida, has left WWE. He's been moved to the alumni section. And no further details on why he left. It could have been just his contract expired, none was offered, or he felt it was time to leave, or, you know, the old tried and true method of budget cuts. So, in my opinion, I'm kind of glad he left NXT UK. Oh, I'm sorry, 2.0. Because in the WWE landscape of everything, Cruiserweight Champ was going to be his ceiling. Like, he was going to sniff at the North American title. He was going to sniff at the tag titles. He wasn't going to get anywhere close to the NXT Championship. But, yeah, I mean, he's Kushida. He is one of the greatest junior heavyweights. I'm going to say junior heavyweight. He is one of the greatest junior heavyweights, you know, spoken in the same breath as Jushin Thunder Liger. And NXT, well, yeah, WWE just kind of pissed him away. It wasn't like the whole Kenta situation where, you know, every time he had momentum, he'd be derailed by injury. It's just, they did absolutely nothing with Kushida. Like, there was that whole Go Nowhere feud with Velveteen Dream. There was this whole Go Nowhere, you know, thing with Jiro and Jacket Time. It's just, they squandered him. And, you know, now that he's gone from NXT, maybe he can rebuild his, or reestablish his reputation. Not really rebuild it, but just reestablish it. He could go back to New Japan and prove why he's one of the best. I could see him go into AEW for, you know, a couple of matches. He could go to Impact, be a standout in their X division, or he could go to Ring of Honor. You know, sky's the limit for this man. Besides, the name Kushida has value behind it. Anybody would sign up Kushida. I mean, literally anybody would sign him up. Next, we had the debut of Roxanne Perez. I said it right the first time. Roxanne Perez taking on Jacy Jayne of Toxic Attraction. This was pretty good. This was a pretty good match, but short. Jacy Jayne, you know, while she was in the driver's seat, she was interrupted. Well, Wendy Chu came on the Titantron, and basically she made it known that she tore up the Toxic Lounge, you know, Toxic Attractions clubhouse locker room thing. She tore it up, and while Jacy Jayne and the rest of Toxic Attraction were distracted, Roxanne gets the victory with a Yoshi Tonic. Yeah. Next, we had a parking lot promo from LDF. Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro were buzzing about their victory. Santos was upset. You know, I'd be upset too if somebody whacked me in the knee with a crowbar. Anyway, he's just like, oh, I just want to go home. And, you know, Joaquin's like, oh, I don't think we're going any. Well, no, it was Electra that said, I don't think we're going anywhere. Because his car, the LDF car, got booted, and then they look on the hood of the car, and there's a fish wrapped in newspaper, which is some sort of. I'm going to go on a limb here, and feel free to dispute me. I'm going to say that's Mafia symbolism for sleeping with the fishes. Maybe that's just me playing off of stereotypes. I don't know. Next, it's confirmed that at Spring Break-In, it's going to be a triple threat for Grimes' North American Championship as Grimes defends against Carmelo Hayes and Solo Sikoa, which that's going to be a bang-up match. Next, we had the final part, part 3 of the Joe Gacy Braun Breaker arc, where Joe Gacy is watching Braun Breaker, through the security cameras, and then he goes, "It's time I end this," and he walks away. Yeah. And finally, in the main event for the NXT Tag Team Championships, Pretty Deadly, Elton Prince and Kit Wilson, because these notes have the names, took on Dexter Lumis and Duke Hudson. Of course, Indy and Persia were at ringside. Yeah, this was a pretty good match. Pretty Deadly, of course, they had instant cohesion right from the jump, and Dexter and Duke started finding cohesion, as the match wore on. Especially in the early part where Pretty Deadly took a second to pose with Indy and Persia, and that caused Duke and Dexter to get on the same page. But towards the finish, Duke Hudson was looking for that hot tag to Dexter Lumis, and Dexter gets pulled off by the apron. And Dexter takes, I believe it was Elton. Anyway, takes him and just yeets him into the steps. He gets back on the apron, ready to tag in Hudson. And before he could, Kit Wilson comes out of absolutely nowhere, blasts Lumis off the apron. He smacks in the security railing. And Pretty Deadly put Duke Hudson down for the 3, and they retain their NXT Tag Team Championships, and they celebrate for like 2 seconds before the lights go down, and there's Joe Gacy in the Eagle's Nest. He calls out Braun Breaker. Breaker steps up to the platform that Gacy's on, and Gacy says, "All right, I'll hand you back Rick Steiner's Hall of Fame ring, but I want a NXT title match." And Braun agrees. So Joe Gacy takes the ring, delicately places it in Breaker's pocket, and he goes, "Now that you have what you want, and I have what I want, he says, I'll see you in 2 weeks at Spring Break-In, and before you get there, you gotta take a leap of faith." And then he just shoves Braun Breaker off, and Braun Breaker hits the floor, and when they pan down, Braun Breaker is surrounded by a bunch of spooky druid dudes, while Joe Gacy looks on menacingly. I'm sorry. While he looks on menacingly, and the spooky druid guys just kind of jump Braun Breaker, and you just hear Braun Breaker yell, "Ah, stop it, get off me." And that's how we closed out the show. It was a pretty breezy episode of NXT. Everything just kind of snapped into place. One thing led to another. I liked it. Um, wasn't too thrilled about that ending. Like, what are they trying to do now? Present Joe Gacy as a cult leader or something? Because his character started off like irritating because it was all the PC lingo, inclusiveness, safe zone, all that. Now he's just kind of slipped into Bray Wyatt territory. He's just a guy, but you know he's got some kind of spooky gimmick behind him, and he talks. Oh, and he takes a 5-minute promo and goes absolutely nowhere with it. But we'll see. So yeah. All right, now we move on to NXT UK, where we kicked off the show with a back alley brawl match between Sam Gradwell and Kenny Williams. Of course, the issues that these two have gone through between each other. Kenny Williams doing the dastardly thing of butchering Sam Gradwell's mohawk, and Sam Gradwell costing Kenny Williams some W's. So yeah, the story of this match was every time Kenny Williams would get the advantage over Sam Gradwell, this masked figure would appear distracting Kenny Williams, leading to Sam Gradwell to get the advantage again. Uh, the the finish came when Kenny Williams was trying to take Sam Gradwell out. Kenny Williams was on the top rope and Sam Gradwell was on the apron. He was standing on the apron with a table conveniently placed by ringside. Kenny Williams gets up to the top of the turnbuckle and he sees the masked figure, in the crowd lurking. He gets distracted. Sam Gradwell plucks him off the top rope, hits an attitude adjustment, putting him through the table, throws him back in the ring, and he gets the victory. Afterwards, Kenny Williams is getting chased by the masked man. So, next week it was announced that we'd see 2.0 stars on NXT UK. We will see Von Wagner, who, woohoo, whatever. Damian Kemp, who is the brother of Gabe Stevenson, or Gable Stevenson. I don't know why I call him Gabe. Gable Stevenson. Lash Legend, which she's alright. She could use a little bit of improvement, but we'll also see the UK debut of my girl Ivy Nile. That gun show. I'd love to see her permit for that gun show. Next we had a vignette for Xia Brookside and Eliza Alexander, of course, hyping up the conflict between the two of them and Amel. It was also announced that in 3 weeks, on the 200th episode of NXT UK, Ilya Dragunov will put his UK title online against Jordan Devlin, and there's a contract signing next week. Then next we had Amelia McKenzie taking on Sophie Turner. Oh, Stevie Turner. My fault. Of course, this match came off of some backhanded comments made by Stevie Turner, saying that Mako Satomura took McKenzie under her wing because she didn't view McKenzie as a threat. Yeah, this was a pretty good match. In the end, Millie gets the victory with a spear, and she puts away Stevie Turner. And in the main event, yes, this was a 3-match show. it was a 2 out of 3 falls match for the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. The defending champions Mustache Mountain defending against Oliver Carter and Ashton Smith. Okay, yes, I did say that right. This was a hell of a match. See, the first fall came in pretty late in the contest. Let's see if I can find it in these notes. Yeah, that's going to take a while. Anyway, Mustache Mountain retained through some shenanigans with 2 falls to 1, because in the second victory, Trent Seven pins Oliver Carter with his feet on the rope. And Tyler Bate, you can see it on his face, like, oh no, Trent, not again. And then he goes, I'm not happy about it, but... So, yeah. As far as the spoilers from the NXT UK tapings that happened as of late, that will be covered when they premiere. So, yeah. That's it for NXT UK as well as NXT. So, once again, I'm War Machine MJ. You see my titles, and I will see you guys next time. Ba-bang!